Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, March 19th, 8:46 a.m. And we are here once again on the market open. We've got about 11 days left in this month. It's kind of crazy. Third month of the year. I was thinking about it yesterday that we're going to be in April pretty soon. And we're going to be 4 months of the year. And then after April, you have May. And then after May, you have June. And then in June, you're 6 months into the year. So we are closing up on March. And as we're closing up on March, obviously the market has had an incredible run. Today is not one of those days where the market continues to have an incredible run. Stocks are down. Stocks are down pretty aggressively in the pre-market. And the reason stocks are down is, well, I think there's a lot of reasons. One of the main reasons is liquidity is leaving the system to an extent, particularly on Bitcoin. Bitcoin's down, folks. Bitcoin is down. Bitcoin 65,857. That was last night at 10:57 p.m. I had an aggressive caption on Twitter. I said, stop the selling. I put a space between the and the selling and the stop to try to really get my point across. No one listened. And then as I woke up at 5:13 in the morning, I get all these notifications saying Bitcoin continues to go down. So we got a lot to talk about with Bitcoin. We have a Palantir upgrade from someone you probably haven't heard of before. We have the head of energy of Palantir discussing in a new interview why they think Palantir is going to be so effective, particularly in the new energy, I guess, revolution that we're going to be having over the next decade. And then we've got to talk about NVIDIA's event, massive event. SMCI is down 10% in the pre-markets. NVIDIA's down. How much is NVIDIA down? NVIDIA is down about 2%, 860 right now. It seems like it's a sell the news event, and we'll talk about why the news shouldn't be sold off, but it probably will be sold off. And we'll get into everything else going on in the broader markets. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Let's get started for the market open. Nick Piercy, Seema, Canman, Tom Brady, Kite, John Stevens, Sethi Roth. What's up? What's up? Ray, Gift Magic, Albert, Top Dasher, Adele, Kevin, Jeremy, Broccoli Bob, Other Zinc, Otto, Edmund, Chad. What's up, Chad? Thank you for being here today. Digital Content, June, Sanjay, Andy, the Bank of Japan. We also have to talk about that. That's another reason the stock market is down this morning. So we'll talk about them, and the Fed will be speaking tomorrow as well. And market may be anticipating something around that. Daryl, Even, Maddie, Midwest, Jarrett. Thank you all for being here. All right, let's get into it. Thomas, what's up? What's up? Thank you for being here. So I think we'll start off with Bitcoin, and then we'll get into everything else that we have to talk about. Obviously, crypto taking a bit of a nosedive this morning. So on Friday, I said I think there was liquidation happening from the leveraged longs and the leveraged shorts. And I felt that liquidation happening from both sides of the aisle was leading to the reason for why Bitcoin was falling, right? 63,000 right now on Bitcoin. And, it feels like maybe now it's not just leveraged longs and shorts that are being liquidated by market makers, but actually people selling. Michael Saylor this morning has bought more Bitcoin. So that's a little bit of breaking news right there. We all knew this was going to happen, but it was about 125 million more than what was expected. We expected 500 million. He bought 623 million, 9,245 Bitcoin, 67,000 Bitcoin a pop. So Michael bought the dip. Now the dip continues to dip. So now we're at 63,000. Its average is at 35,000. He is sitting on $7.53 billion worth of Bitcoin. He's basically sitting on about 7 billion of profits right now in the context of Bitcoin. So Michael Saylor bought a lot. It hasn't really helped Bitcoin's price. On top of that, the ETF inflows, as you can see right here, Grayscale had their largest selling day ever, 642 million left Grayscale. Now, you might be wondering, why does Grayscale keep having all these red days? It's because GBTC, Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, they don't want, or people want to leave someplace that has ridiculous fees. And so they're taking that money and they're putting it in other directions. But that does create more sell side pressure on Bitcoin, right? When we have those outflows when it comes to GBTC. Fidelity brought in about 5.9 million. ARK brought in 2 million. Bitwise brought in 17.6 million. And BlackRock, IBIT, brought in $451 million in inflows. So we had a ton of inflows yesterday. net outflows of 154 because of grayscale. And that plus Michael Saylor was not enough to be able to get Bitcoin to go higher. Now, as a result of Bitcoin going down, Digital Content says Bitcoin's 50-day moving average is at 56.2. We'll see if we get there. I mean, I do think it is very possible, given the volatility, we get into the 50s, and we're only 3,000 points away. Given that Robinhood is down 4.28% in the pre-markets, MicroStrategy, goodness gracious, this one is down 25% in 2 days. It's down 10% in the pre-markets. It was down 16% yesterday. That's rough. CleanSpark down about 5% in the pre-markets. Coinbase down about 6%. Marathon down 3%. Riot down 5%. If the market giveth, the market taketh as well. Robinhood now only down 1.5%. It was just down 5. Oh, now it's down 4%. Wow. Okay, so the market's being a little screwy. It just went from 1745 to 1794. Now it's back down to 1745. Now it's back up to 1794. It's going to be an interesting market. I think Robinhood is kind of starting to divert a little bit away from Bitcoin in terms of its price action because investors are seeing that there's a lot more momentum behind Robinhood. By the way, I want to show you guys some analysis on Robinhood in a little bit that I did last night on their gold subscribers that I think is really interesting. But, I mean, let's not kid ourselves here. If Bitcoin goes down, Robinhood will make money for the quarter because when people sell on the platform, they make money. Because of the volatility, but the future quarter's growth may be hindered by the fact that there's going to be less trading volumes, and then the market might think that Bitcoin or that crypto narrative is gone. Now, granted, they did how much million? They did 471 million in revenue last quarter. 43 divided by 471. Crypto was 9% of their revenue, so it was a decent amount. Nothing. I mean, it wasn't like 40% of the revenues, but it was 9%. Can they replace 9%? I think it's possible. It's just in general, if crypto slows down, activities across the entire platform might slow down, even though I do think there's other ways for them to easily be able to monetize. So we'll see how the street reacts to that, but that one is going to be down this morning along with a lot of other crypto stocks. SoFi as well getting hit. SoFi, $7.01. I think it was at $6.90 at one point in the pre-markets. We'll see how it reacts. I did buy some more SoFi options yesterday. I think we're getting to a bottom. Maybe I'm wrong, but I do think this thing is bottoming out. And unlike some other stocks like SMCI, that's now down 10% in the pre-market, if we're having a red day in the markets, you would expect SoFi to not collapse because it's down so much. Yeah, there it is, 692. Either Weebill's messing up or the market's being weird, but it's switching really quickly as I click on the tickers. If a stock's already down, you don't expect it to go down that much more in a red market versus something like SMCI that has plenty of room to fall. I mean, now it's in the S&P 500, but people still might sell it off. Google up a little bit, 149. Apple, 174. So that partnership yesterday has led both companies to kind of retain some momentum. We'll talk about more about what that means, but these two are doing okay in today's market. I didn't even know Adobe hit 513 yesterday. Wow. Adobe was at 570. It went to 480. Now it's at 509. I did not know it was up 5% yesterday. But overall, yesterday was a green day. S&P 500 as well. 512. Right now, 511 in the pre-markets. It is down, but it had a good day yesterday. Okay, so that's what we got going on Bitcoin. Let's talk about Palantir, and then we'll go on to the Bank of Japan and what they have done as well. So Palantir gets a new price target upgrade from an analyst that you probably haven't heard of before. But he did upgrade the stock. The analyst's name is Brian Stutland. He's a portfolio manager at Equity Armor Investments. And he has said that Palantir is a promising AI investment, particularly in the defense and intelligence sectors. Quote from him, they're doing more than just cybersecurity for the government. They are really starting to become very creative in the AI world. He manages Rational Equity Armor Fund, who has given Palantir a price target of $37, which is a potential 57% increase from this level. He emphasized the company's AI implications for military and defense, saying that Palantir is poised to become a significant player in this space. I'm going to Google Rational Equity Armor Fund right now. This is the fund. I don't know how big this fund is. It does trade on the broader markets. This is the dude right here. I feel like I've heard Brian Stutland before. I feel like I have. I might be wrong, but this is the guy. So Brian Stutland, he is the lead portfolio manager for this fund. Again, I don't know how much they're worth. Let me see if I can Google it. How much does Rational Equity Fund manage? Let's see. Yeah, no answers there. I would imagine it's a substantial amount of money. It's probably not multi-billions, but it's a decent amount. So his argument is $37 a share, and $37 a share is probably reasonable given their creativity in the defense space. Here's the head of Palantir Energy. Arnie got this good clip speaking about how the sector in particular is leveraging generative AI in the energy space. He was at CERAWeek conference. Here's what he had to say, Palantir head of energy.
Perhaps not as far along when it comes to AI as perhaps some other industries. Would you agree with that assessment? Why? And kind of how do you get them up to speed?
Yeah, I think I disagree with that assessment, actually. Maybe we take contrarian takes to a lot of things at Palantir, but I think the energy industry has been using artificial intelligence and machine learning for over a decade. They've just been using it in a different way than we're speaking of it right now. If you think of things like deterministic models and reservoir simulations, high performance computing centers, the energy industry has been using that technology for a long time. What I think is interesting is the proliferation of speed of development of what we're seeing now in large language models, in Gen AI pieces, is causing the energy industry to think of using technology differently, right? I think the energy industry moves sometimes on longer cycles, right? A boom or bust of the commodity takes 3 or 4 years. Procurement can take a year. Information security reviews can take 6 months. In the last year, we've had GPT-4, Turbo, Vision, Aramco announcing MetaBrain. That's 4 huge large language models, all in the space of one procurement cycle. And so where I think the energy industry can move faster is sort of experimenting and adopting some of these new technologies in an accelerated fashion.
How do they do? How is Gen AI specifically going to be, pertinent to them or helpful to them?
Yeah, I think it'll be different for different companies. And I think that's probably the first big trap, is that some people are looking at AI as a tool and then finding a problem. And I think the companies that are doing this successfully are finding a particular problem they want to solve and then looking to technology as a lever to do that. So perhaps that's that you want to reduce your power consumption in the field, or you want to better track your emissions profile and mitigation. You want to have fewer suppliers or fewer supply chain interruptions. Those are all great places where you can use AI and machine learning and bound models to solve problems, but that all starts with finding the right problem rather than just saying you're going to use a technology.
Now,
so obviously energy and AI in the energy space is going to be very effective, very important, and it's going to be something that Palantir in particular has said that they're going to utilize in a meaningful way. The $37 price target, that would put Palantir at about, let's just do 37 times 2. I'm not doing the math right now. 74. Yeah. So 37 next year, that would be closer to 76 billion on Palantir, doing about 2.68 billion in revenue. I think Palantir is going to have to do a little bit more revenue than 2.65 for us to really get to that type of valuation, which I think they're probably going to beat revenue estimates anywhere from 200 to 300 million this year. I think that's my guess. So if that's the case, dude, I think 37 is possible. I think $30 at least by the end of the year is very possible. We are down in the pre-markets on Palantir, and we're down because the whole market's down today. Right now, Palantir's low 23s right now, 23.50. We were at 23.30 at one point. Well, I mean, let's see. If we have a nasty day in the markets, we can definitely go lower. I can see us getting below that 23 level. I think that would be a great buy the dip. But it's going to be interesting to see how we rebound. The one thing about the dips we've seen, which have been few in this stock market in 2024, is that they've been eaten up pretty aggressively. Pretty aggressively. So, I mean, like when we do get a dip, the question is, are there enough dip buyers? We have not seen prolonged weakness in the market for like multiple days. Like, I don't remember a string of 2 to 3 days where we've seen just like the market kind of collapse, like have a real 5-10% decline or correction. We haven't had that. We've had individual stocks do that. And even then, SMCI down 10%, it rebounded. SoFi down 2%, 694. I expect that one to rebound. So, I mean, a lot of these companies have rebounded. Tesla right now down 171. Tesla's still above the 170 range. Even Tesla that was getting really hit last week, it's rebounded this week as well. And we'll see where it goes from here. But we have not had a sustainable week of buying the dip where multiple days in a row, things collapse. And so I think that has led some investors to be on edge that when they see a dip, they attack immediately. And this is what I did when Robinhood got to 1585. I attacked pretty aggressively, right? I doubled down at that point. maybe we get there again, but I don't know. Robinhood right now 1735. If we get to the 1690s, do people, buy that dip? I don't know. It's really going to be a question of psychology and sentiment and how things change in regards to either people wanting the dip or people wanting the dip to continue happening so that they can get a better price. But we're going to see pretty soon how that plays out. Meet Kevin is shorting Tesla again. Yes, that is correct. Meet Kevin is shorting Tesla. He made another video yesterday saying that he is shorting Tesla. He was getting kind of made fun of yesterday because Tesla was up after he shorted it. Now, he did close that short for a profit, but now he believes that but now he's shorting it again after Tesla went up 6%. And, well, I guess that's his MO. I did see an interesting post over the weekend, and this is what lets you know the markets are so ruthless. The post was about how Meet Kevin made all of his money off of Tesla, not only from a stock market perspective, but also from a fame perspective. Like, that stock is really what gave him a lot of attention, I guess, on the internet, on YouTube. And now he's shorting it. The post was kind of just like, it's kind of just like, why are you against the company that made you so rich, made you so like YouTube famous, and now you're just like trying to just make a quick buck off of it versus just being long? And I get that. I actually understand that perspective really well. I mean, I kind of feel the same way with Palantir. I feel so in debt to Palantir and in gratitude to Palantir, not only because they're an amazing company, but because they've given me so much to talk about. And, it's given you a good subject to be able to really make content about. And if you enjoy making content about that, then it matters. I mean, obviously we got the Palantir pen right here. If you guys watched the NVIDIA conference, I was chewing on this pen. So everyone was obsessed with my fetishization of this pen. I was imagining it was carbs. Never mind. Anyway, so what I'm saying here is that it's really weird that he's doing this, but I also understand his perspective that money is money. And at the end of the day, like, you can't be emotional about this stuff. You just want to make money, and you're going to do whatever you have to do to make money. Now, no matter how much money you can make on shorting, a stock that I could never do that to Palantir. I'm too emotional about it. I'll admit it right now. Now, I'm not emotional about valuation, and you guys know I'm not emotional about valuation. I've always been uptight about valuation and growth, but about shorting it, like, I would never do that. Like, I just love the company too much. I believe in them too much. So, and I know Kevin believes in Tesla a lot. So him shorting was really interesting because he's doing it for a quick buck, or he's doing it for money, or he's doing it he's doing it for money, or he's doing it for attention. Probably doing it for both. But still, it's kind of just weird, dude, because Tesla gave him so much. Tesla gave him everything, Tesla gave him everything. So very, very weird that he now switches up that easily. But I also understand money is money, and I guess if he thinks it's overvalued, he thinks it's overvalued. He does manage a fund for investors, which also adds to his necessity to try to make short-term gains. But I don't know. It is a little weird for him to go full-on assault with Tesla. Wait, are you saying Saylor bought again after a week or so again? Yes. For those that are just joining, Saylor bought again today. $625 million he bought. And he bought $825 million last week. So he bought basically, call it 21,000 Bitcoin in the course of 2 weeks. Almost as much as BlackRock is buying. Okay, Bank of Japan. Let's talk a little bit about them. Bank of Japan has raised their interest rates for the first time in a long time. And this also has the markets in a little bit of a weird situation. Let's read a little bit off of this, and then we'll move on to NVIDIA and what they talked about yesterday. The update on Palantir was that they did get a new price target, $37 by Brian Stutland. And we'll see how Palantir performs today, below $24 in the pre-markets. Okay, so Bank of Japan. The decision marks the end of a global era of negative interest rates that began in the 2010s. This is the first time they're doing it since 2010. Other central banks that had introduced negative rates in the 2010s, including European Central Bank and the Swiss National Bank, have already moved into positive territory amid inflation triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic and the war in Ukraine. For a generation, the Japanese central bank served as a laboratory for monetary policy experimentation as it addressed the country's chronic stagnation, which was marked by flat or falling prices. We know the Nikkei index in Japan hit all-time highs for the first time in a very long time. Japan was obviously stagnating for more than a decade just a couple months ago. On Tuesday, it said those policies have fulfilled their roles and the principal ones will be ended. The Bank of Japan is moving its key target for short-term rates to a range of 0 to 0.1, which is its first increase since 2006. It will no longer set a target for the yield on 10-year Japanese government bonds, and it is halting its purchase of assets such as stock, real estate investment trusts, and corporate bonds that don't typically go into the books of central banks. The Bank of Japan has amassed the equivalent of hundreds of billions of dollars in such assets since the global financial crisis in 2008 to 2009. Now, the market reaction was restrained because the Bank of Japan officials had telegraphed their intentions. The Nikkei stock average closed up 0.7% while the yen was down. The Bank of Japan, which had maintained a negative policy rate since 2016, said it would continue buying government bonds. The reason the market was not triggered off of Japan increasing their rates is because they're still going to buy government bonds. Japan is one of the largest buyers of U.S. bonds. And so as long as the Bank of Japan is buying our debt, the government, or at least the stock market's not going to freak out too much, but it does signal that inflation is a bit stickier than what people thought, and that monetary policy does need to get tighter in one of the places where it was not tight since 2007. In February, the Nikkei stock average hit a record for the first time in 34 years. Japan's largest labor union said last week that major companies are planning to pay by an average of 5.28% this year, the largest increase since 1991. Mizuho Securities chief market economist says the Bank of Japan is unlikely to make additional rate increases because there will gradually appear more headwinds, such as the lack of strength in prices. So wages are going up, prices are going up, rates are going up, but rates are not going to go up as aggressively as what the market may be perceiving Japan's rates to go up, which is also why they're not overreacting, and the Bank of Japan will continue to be buying debt from the U.S., so that also will be good. Japan is back in business after a 30-year downturn. That is correct. Japan is back in business, and we are probably going to see more Japanese countries or Japanese companies start to raise more debt, potentially IPO, and expand their products and services throughout the entire world that they haven't been able to over the past decade. Thomas says inflation is down 2.8% year over year in Canada. Okay, there we go. We got I just pulled up the article. So Canada inflation 2.8% from 2.9. So that's good. This is basically Canada's, I would argue, their version of CPI. This result contrasted with the market expectations of 3.1, adding more leeway for the Bank of Canada to start monetary easing in the second half of the year. So the market expected 3.1. Canada brought in 2.8. And in February or in January, we had 2.9. So inflation is starting to come down. Gasoline increased a little bit, and food purchased from stores came down from 3.4 to 2.4, which is good. Inflation is coming down across the world. On top of inflation coming down there, inflation also is down in Somalia. Let me just pull this up right here. So inflation is down in Somalia. It's down to a 6-month low, which is really good. Brazil is starting to show more signs of retail activity. Their index for the service sector is up 0.7% in January, and it's up 0.6% month over month, which is up from a 0.26% increase. Malta has inflation now at a 26-month low. Oman has inflation unchanged for the month of February, so their inflation stay the same. And then in Hong Kong, the jobless rate was unchanged at 2.9%. The U.S. unemployment rate went from 3.7 to 3.9% last week. So those are some headlines. Who cares about Somalia? We need to care about the global economy, guys. Everything around the world matters when it comes to this stuff. Obviously, Somalia inflation doesn't really affect the United States inflation, but it would be nice to see inflation start to go down across the world. Here is Jensen Huang introducing their new GPU. We'll transition to talking about NVIDIA now. And this is Blackwell, their brand new super chip. Here's him from yesterday speaking.
The world. This is Blackwell. It's okay, Hopper. You're very good. Good boy. Well, good girl. 208 billion transistors, and so you could see, I can see there's a small line between two dies. This is the first time two dies have abutted like this together in such a way that the two dies think it's one chip. There's 10 terabytes of data between it, 10 terabytes per second, so that these two sides of the Blackwell chip have no clue which side they're on. There's no memory locality issues, no cache issues. It's just one giant chip. And so when we were told that Blackwell's ambitions were beyond the limits of physics, the engineer said, "So what?" And so this is what happened. And so this is the Blackwell chip, and it goes to.
Okay, so I mean, look, it was an exciting conference by NVIDIA. The stock is down because no one understood what the hell Jensen was talking about yesterday, at least not investors. It was a developer conference. I watched the whole thing. If you were part of my stream, you watched it with me. Look, I understand why the stock is down right now. There was nothing exciting enough presented at that event that I think the average person could understand. Yes, they talked about GPUs. They talked about computing power. They talked about the 10x increase, 1000x increase. All of that is fine and dandy. But as an investor, I just want to know how much that's going to increase overall top line business. And they didn't focus on that because it's not an investor conference. It's a developer conference, which makes sense. They have investor days. They have developer days. But the reason the stock's down is because I don't think it was so weird. The market was really anticipating. I mean, the thing shot up to $920 yesterday in anticipation that Jensen would really announce something exciting. And this just goes to show you how irrational the markets are. He wasn't supposed to announce something exciting, right? Like he was supposed to announce just like regular updates for developers to get people super, thinking, to get people to think about what's going to go on in the world of computation. But investors hyped it up and they were like, all right, we got to buy NVIDIA stock before this big conference. This conference was never going to be like an Apple Vision Pro type of announcement conference. I mean, yeah, they announced a new GPU, which is cool, but the average person doesn't care that much. Now, companies will care and that'll impact top line revenue, but they didn't really focus on that. SMCI down about 10%, NVIDIA down 2%. So overall, I thought the conference was exciting. They showed off a lot of different stuff in the world of humanoid robotics, in the world of healthcare, in the world of media and entertainment. PayPal is going to be one of the companies that's presenting at that conference. So it's going to be exciting to see what PayPal has to say. There's like 200 different companies that are there. But in general, the overall conference was a little boring. I'm not going to lie. It was boring. And on top of it being boring, it wasn't that like exciting. Like it was kind of stale moving through it. The videos were good, but outside of that, it was a hard thing to watch for 2 hours straight, especially with Jensen talking in very, very technical terms. But the business implications for this is that I do think this could be a buy the dip scenario. I'm not going to be buying the dip, but if you want to get into NVIDIA in the low 800s, maybe you got your chance. That GPU they increase is going to be not just a GPU, but a GPU platform for other GPUs to talk with each other, which should accelerate computing at an unprecedented scale. At least that's what they're claiming. Blackwell is the name of that platform. And if that's the case, I mean, you should just have more top line revenue, more customers using NVIDIA over anything else. Here's an update on what we should expect from that conference.
Well, we get the GB200 chip, also the accompanying software. Jensen Huang says it's a platform. It's not just a chip. He's trying to make that clear. Huge performance upgrade now, and I had to Google what a petaflop was, but 20 petaflops compared to the 4 petaflops from its successor, Hopper. I don't think you had to Google it, but the rest of us did. Put it all in perspective. What does all this mean with the petaflops and everything else, and why is NVIDIA's stock down?
One of the main things that we've been thinking at Wisdom Tree is you're seeing all the biggest companies in the world spending on the order of tens of billions in capital improvements and further developments to build out this massive computational infrastructure. And when they do all that spending, that tens of billions, a lot of it goes toward NVIDIA. And we've seen the chart of the stock, incredible returns in the past years. But the critical question, and what I was most interested in during the keynote, was you started to get a perception, for instance, of what the metaverse could be used for, how that could connect across multiple industries, how you can use all this computational power to do more. Last year, it seemed like it was about figuring out a way to pass the GMAT and the LSAT and the bar exam, which are all nifty achievements. But to see it working in industries, improving factories, connecting over to robotics and healthcare, this is where I think we need to go to make the returns that these companies need to see to spend tens of billions.
So, Chris, I'm going to tell you something right now. If this is the thing that makes the metaverse make sense, I mean, I think a lot of people's minds are going to be pretty blown. I want to get into some of the announcements, some of the stocks that benefited from what Jensen Huang was talking about. He mentioned the big three cloud providers, Microsoft, Alphabet, and Amazon, are going to offer access to Blackwell through their cloud services. So those three are obviously also part of the Magnificent Seven. Does this cement the idea that you want to be in these Magnificent Seven names for this AI trade? Does it create a new leg of this AI trade in your mind? I mean, what happens with these companies having such immediate access? We're showing some of the other companies, IBM and Oracle as well, but specifically these three names.
It's notable that these companies really offer a menu to their client base to basically allow them to use. I mean, some of these companies like Amazon and what have you, they also offer access to quantum computing, at least the development of where it is today. I was personally more interested to hear the announcements of Cadence and Synopsys, sort of that next level down where you see those partnerships that NVIDIA is making with companies that are maybe not the most well-known companies in the entire world, with the biggest client bases, to ultimately see further benefits across this AI trade.
So as Chris says, Amazon tweeted they're buying 20,000 of these new chips. Snowflake tweeted about their partnership yesterday. Microsoft tweeted about the partnership yesterday. Basically, every company tried to hop on the NVIDIA attention wave and be like, well, we're partnered with NVIDIA as too. And so all of them tried to say that NVIDIA has more partnerships with them. I think what he's saying is pretty correct. I mean, NVIDIA is doing a lot of downstream partnerships with companies that are smaller, but still more advanced. They talked about BYD yesterday. They talked about Mercedes yesterday. I mean, there's a variety of companies NVIDIA talked about. It seems like the Fortune 500, 1,050, all the biggest companies in the world are partnering with NVIDIA in some capacity, because if all of them are implementing generative AI or an AI strategy, that's kind of the bull case for Palantir, right? If all of them need something like an AIP, then that's a massive market for Palantir. All of them need GPUs in one way or another, especially those that are doing very heavy lifting. You talk about Pixar, right, with animated animations. Talk about Mercedes with self-driving. There's a very, very big market opportunity for NVIDIA. We have about 11 days left in the entire cycle. So in 11 days, Q1 will be done for every company. And then we have about 2 months, end of April. No, 1 month. Yeah, because we have 1 month off from earnings. Then April, it's over. And then early May and end of April, we begin earnings seasons again for Q1 and see how it plays out. Lena says, good morning. What about AMD? Why don't we talk more about AMD? Well, AMD fell. I mean, look, the thing about AMD is that their guidance was really bad in Q1. We've talked about that a lot. AMD's down another 3%. Wow, AMD's at 183. Holy crap. AMD went to 220. AMD went to 230 basically last week. Now it's at 183. That's a hell of a dip. The reason AMD went up is because NVIDIA investors started chasing the next sort of big semis play. That's basically the sentiment we had last week when they saw that NVIDIA was running away from them at like $930, $940. And so they went into AMD. The problem is AMD's numbers were really crappy. They reduced guidance for data center revenue. They reduced guidance for gaming. They reduced guidance for top line growth. They're going to do $5.4 billion. Last quarter, they did $6.1 billion in revenue. So like everything was down. Maybe they're sandbagging, but I don't think Q1 is sandbagging. Probably Q2 to Q4 is sandbagging, but Q1 tends to be slower for most companies. So I don't know why AMD went up to 230. And I said on the stream every single day, I have no idea why AMD keeps going up. It just feels a bit euphoric right now. So I think it actually makes sense that AMD is coming back down. It's a lot more reasonable for AMD to be at these levels, even though even these levels, the valuation is getting up there, at 300, 290 billion. NVIDIA's valuation is the only one that kind of makes sense to me. And even that is like, that's out there. So AMD, I think it makes sense for this to take a breather, and probably the dip will get eaten up, but I don't know if the dip's going to get eaten up enough to get it back to that 230 level. Where does it say 83? If you look at the pre-markets, AMD says 83. Let me confirm on Robinhood because Webull has been messing up a lot. AMD is 183. Yeah, it's down 4%. So if you look at it, it'll say it'll be down 4%. Okay, the Fed is talking tomorrow. Let's get an update from JP Morgan. Most people think those 5 rate cuts we were going to get is now going to maybe 2 or 3, which is congruent with the Fed's dot plot of how many rate cuts we will get. Here's a preview of what we're going to get in that conference tomorrow.
Right now to talk more about the Fed and the economy is Ellen Zentner, the chief U.S. economist at Morgan Stanley. And Ellen, we haven't talked to you in a couple of years, I think, about this, but I think what Steve just described might describe your viewpoint on some of these things too, that inflation picture looks a little worse, but you don't think things have drastically changed for the Fed.
No, I don't think so at all. I think, first thing, we're all on pins and needles going into this meeting. By the way, I do brackets, and it's called the dot plot for the Fed. Okay, so I put names
That's your
next to
March
dots.
Madness.
I like this woman. I like this woman.
And I move them around. Yes, this feels like March Madness for economists. So we go into this meeting and forget that we got great news on the labor market, where this concern that you were going to have this runaway job gains, right? We had a lot of downward revisions, which kind of evened that out. And then you get into the inflation data. And actually, if you dig into it for exactly what the Fed is focused on, there was a very big reversal in core services, ex-housing, after January. So does it answer the question definitively that this reacceleration is temporary? No, but it certainly doesn't tell you that you're wrong yet on the reacceleration in inflation being temporary. And so I think that this is going to be a meeting that there's much less fanfare about at the end of the day when the dust settles. I think we trim the low dots, we trim the high dots, we bring the committee closer together, but we still end up with a 3-cut median.
So you don't think the 2 cuts? I mean, even Roger Ferguson, who we spoke with yesterday, the former vice chair of the Fed, said he's now kind of penciling in 2 cuts for this year.
Yeah, well, I think, look, it's a close call, right? When you've only got 2 people that need to move and to move the median higher. And I think that the market could take signal from the fact that even just getting a better balance between 2 and 3, even if the median stays at 3, that will tell the markets, well, they're kind of moving in that direction of less. But I don't think there's anything definitive going into this meeting. And for the Fed, you've got a lifetime to deliver 3 cuts, right? It feels like a whole year of data has happened, and it's only March. So they have a long time to deliver those, and they don't need to think, oh my gosh, my forecast is completely wrong. The dots are going to depend on how those forecasts change. We think growth comes up, and we think their inflation forecasts stay the same. And so talk about supply side of the economy. This is another great story this year. We've been out in front of this immigration story because it goes far in explaining why you had such fast growth last year with decelerating inflation. You've got very strong immigration numbers this year as well, which is running a little bit ahead of last year.
Sure.
And the supply in the labor market is incredible. This is how you get slower wage growth, strong job gains, further deceleration in inflation.
And she's right, dude. I mean, like we've got a tight labor market. We've got investors that are willing to give liquidity to the markets. We've got inflation that is gradually coming down, but not aggressively coming down enough to massively cut rates. And then you've got a stock market that is fueled by something called AI. So the supply side of the market has been resilient, and the demand side of the market has been there, willing to be able to pay some of these higher prices on the backs of earnings, justifying those levels, which is why we are kind of in a Goldilocks zone. I was talking about last night on Finance Junkies. We don't need to cut interest rates aggressively. Like at the beginning of 2023, everyone was like, okay, it was like the cocaine, right? That Karp talks about. It's like, where's my rate cut? Give me that rate cut. I want that rate cut so badly. You know, I need that rate cut. Now it's kind of like, I don't really need it. My stocks are up. NVIDIA's up 70%. S&P's up almost 10%. Like, you don't really need a rate cut. You don't need to mess things up unless you start to see some real declines. You can wait, 6-7 months until we get it, which is a great place for the Fed to be in, because the market's doing well. Investors are not upset at J-Powell. And I think that's really because AI is leading the way. And J-Powell needs more time for inflation to come down, and inflation is going to take its time to come down. But when it does come down, then he'll be able to cut, and he'll be able to cut at the right appropriate time. He's not going to have to cut sort of arbitrarily to influence the market. Not saying that he wants to influence the market, of course not. But it doesn't seem like he needs to do that right now. So it's actually not the worst thing in the world. And I think the Feds tomorrow, they're going to say the same thing they've been saying. We're data dependent, and we'll see when the data comes out. And I think the market will react to that the same way they've been reacting to that, which is really not doing anything. Okay, I found out why SMCI is down 10%. They're doing a share offering. The company said in a filing Tuesday morning, that's today, right? Today's Tuesday, that it plans to sell 2 million additional shares of common stock, pushing its total shares outstanding to 58 million. Goldman Sachs is the underwriter. Goldman also has an option to purchase up to 300,000 shares. So that's why they're down. They're not just down because of the NVIDIA kind of sell the news event. They are down 10% because they're going to increase the outstanding shares from 56 million to 58 million. So they're literally creating 2 million new shares, which means they're diluting investors buy an additional 2 million shares, and you will be owning less of the company that you already own. Now, you're allowed to do this when your stock is up a lot. I mean, when your stock is up 10x basically in a year, investors don't care that much, because if you have an average of like 100, I mean, if it goes from 900 to 800 to 700, like it's not, you know, you're not the most upset versus a company that hasn't performed, which is what SoFi did. They did that convertible debt, and that got the market really upset, even though it's a smart thing to do, but the market was not happy about that. SMCI right here at $890 right now, down 11%. You know, potentially can make its way back to 900 if we open and the market kind of overlooks this, but that is why it's currently down. Tesla down 1.27% and NVIDIA down 1.92% as well. June says the market is like kids in the back of Jay Powell's car. Are we there yet? 5 minutes later, are we there yet? Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much. And it felt more like that in 2023, but now it's like the kids can play their video games in the back seat and not worry too much because they're distracted. I mean, Palantir goes from 16 to 24 in 2 months. Yeah, you're going to be distracted by interest rates. You know, S&P goes from 480 to 512 in a couple of weeks. You're going to be distracted from worrying about interest rates. So until we see a significant market decline, which could happen, but until we see that, I don't think people are going to care that much about rates coming down, because, I mean, the whole point of rates coming down is for the market to go up, at least for investors, right? That's what we care about. And market's gone up regardless of rates, which has been pretty good for us. Bitcoin right here, 63,704. This stupid thing is not going up anymore. It's dead. It's over. Wow, it hit 62. Oh my goodness, it hit 62. Let's see what happens to Bitcoin. It is weird that it fell this much. I felt like the liquidation happened over the weekend, 73 to 65. I was like, all right, that's reasonable. Then we went up to 68, and then it just sold off aggressively last night. I mean, I fell asleep when it was at 65. I woke up and it was 63, and I was like, okay, well, this is annoying. This is not nice. So we'll see if that makes any moves later throughout the day. But that one is down. I mean, again, this is kind of healthy. I know I'm messing around and joking, but this is healthy to see Bitcoin fall like this, because I don't think any of us want us to see an $85,000 Bitcoin before the halving event. We want to see something that is, you know, a bit relaxed and not just like crazy, because if usually that happens to be a sell the news event when it occurs. Whereas now the actual supply being cut in half might create a little bit more momentum in Bitcoin, and the price being lower might also give it a lot more room to run. So we'll see what happens there with Bitcoin. Alphabet, Google, 147, up about 4% yesterday, up about 0.39% in the pre-markets, and we'll see where it goes. Ethereum, 3,200. Solana, by the way, also fell. I mean, Solana was at 210 over the weekend. Its all-time high is like 250. Solana right now is at 181, so that took a nosedive. And Ethereum at 3,200. Again, Ethereum was at 4,000. So Ethereum again coming down from those levels. Total Bitcoin market cap, or sort of total crypto market cap, is 2.39 trillion. It was 2.53 a couple of days ago, so we lost about 200 billion, and it is down 7% over the past 24 hours. Bitcoin market cap 1.2 trillion, Ethereum 396 billion, Solana 81 billion. Solana has a market cap that is 2x Palantir's market cap, which is crazy. And Cardano's market cap right now, 22 billion. Dogecoin, 19 billion. About 180 million Doge were transferred onto Robinhood. Don't know why. Some people were speculating maybe it's Elon Musk. That would be interesting. But Robinhood picking up a little bit of momentum on the Dogecoin side. All right, here we go, folks. Thank you for being here. It is Tuesday, March 19th, 9:30 a.m. If you are new to the stream, cover your ears. If you are always part of the stream, keep your ears open because you love the torture. The stock market is now open. Wake your ass up. Here we go. SMCI down 11% on the news of a 2 million share offering of common stock. So that's what gets the market down on SMCI. All right, so SMCI is down. AMD down 4.7%. NVIDIA down 2.26%. Tesla not down too much, down about 0.72%. 172 still retaining those levels. Meet Kevin is now officially shorting Tesla again. So we'll see how that short works out. Palantir 2354 down about 1.83%. S&P down 0.21%. Adobe 0.71%. SoFi 689 down almost 3%. Why not? Of course, Why not? MO, Altria Group. Steve was talking about this one. 44.65, 0.31%. Verizon, 39.87. Netflix, 6.13. Apple and Google are up. Apple and Google continue to maintain their momentum from the partnership yesterday. We'll talk more about them in a second, but Apple and Google are up. Robinhood, 17.79. So up a bit from the pre-market when it was down. Robinhood getting up or not, going down that bad. 17.79 right now on Robinhood. SoundHound down about 4%. Dell is up about 0.46%. Robinhood right here, 1771. Microsoft 416. Bitcoin 63,522. Nike 98.57. They have earnings later this week. Enphase 110. That's down about 0.51%. All the Bitcoin stocks are down. IBIT, BlackRock ETF down 5%. ARKB down 5%. Fidelity down 5%. Let's go to the other Bitcoin stocks. Coinbase down 6%. CleanSpark down 5.2%. Marathon down 6%. MicroStrategy is down 14%. Oh boy. Now you can't really complain if you bought MicroStrategy at like $700, $600, $500. I mean, you're still up a lot, but you just lost 30% of MicroStrategy's valuation. Went from 30 billion to 22 billion in 2 days. So volatility is the name of the game when it comes to MicroStrategy. Robin at 1760 right now. Snowflake is down another 3%, dude. 152. Incredible. Martin says Kevin conveniently closed his Tesla short last Thursday. He opened another one yesterday, Martin. So he didn't, he closed one of them and he opened another one. I actually got the Discord. Someone sent me like his Discord private message or whatever, where he's disclosing his trade. So he is shorting Tesla again at this 172 level. SMCI back to 900. So in that $900 level range, not too bad. If Bitcoin dropped to 50,000, MicroStrategy would drop to 500. Yeah, dude. If Bitcoin dropped to 50K, at this point, MicroStrategy is really pegged to Bitcoin. I mean, pretty aggressively. For those that are just joining, MicroStrategy did buy another $600 million worth of Bitcoin this morning, 623 million. So if Bitcoin goes down, MicroStrategy is going down with it. I mean, it's going to be bad. But I think to get Bitcoin to 50K, down another 13,000 from here, I mean, it could happen. Anything could. I didn't think Bitcoin would go to 63 from 73. So it could happen. But I think it would take a lot of selling and a lot of momentum switching, which I don't think would be the case. But who knows? Who knows? Who knows? If the inflows are good for the ETFs, probably shouldn't be that big of an issue staying above this level. But we'll see how it plays out. PayPal actually only down 1% today, which is exciting. PayPal about basically 15%. In the past week, PayPal, let's see, in the past month, it's up 8%. In the past week, it's up 5%. Past 3 months, it's up 3%. PayPal, I mean, look, over the past month to be up 8%, yesterday was up 10%. That's pretty exciting. So I would imagine PayPal continues to retain some of those levels. And we don't see it sort of, dramatically go down. Market sentiment is changing a little bit, but we'll see how PayPal plays out. Right now, still $63 for the day. Spirit Airlines is up about 1%. And then we have Boeing that for some reason is up. I don't know why Boeing is up, dude. Maybe the market's thinking that it's a huge buy the dip, given that sentiment is so bad and the market's buying. Maybe that's the case. But Boeing right now at 181. I am taking a flight to New Orleans on the 28th of March, so I will not be able to do the market close that day, March 28th. That is going to be an Airbus. That's going to be Spirit. So not having to interact with a Boeing anytime soon. But I know a lot of people that are interacting with Boeings are just pretty scared about what's happening with Boeing. AMD 184, NVIDIA 871 going up a little bit. SMCI now almost 920. The dip was bought pretty quickly on SMCI. It was at 8. It was at 8, like 89. Now it's at 960. Still down 8%, but the dip was bought. SoFi, where's SoFi? Is it moving up? SoFi. Oh, there you go. All right. SoFi at $7. Not bad. SoFi continuing to go higher at $7. CleanSpark only down 2.5%. Yeah, I think the market's also realizing that if Bitcoin is at a temporary kind of like basically traffic light, right? And eventually the light's going to turn green, then these stocks that have a dip shouldn't be aggressively hurt because, I mean, eventually Bitcoin's going to go up and we should get them at cheaper prices. I think that's how the market's interpreting a lot of the miners because we haven't seen CleanSpark literally collapse or some of the other miners collapse as aggressively as we thought they would. And we haven't seen them pop as aggressively as we thought they would when Bitcoin went up. So the market's kind of, putting them in a unique situation. Like when Bitcoin really breaks out, then these guys will really break out. And when Bitcoin really breaks down, maybe these guys will really collapse. But so far, down 10,000 is not enough to get the miners to seriously fall. SoFi's finding a bottom. I agree. I think the 695 to 705 range is definitely trying to find a bottom for SoFi. And we'll see if it is able to find that bottom. I have been buying the dip on this. I think it's stupidly undervalued at this point, but I do think we need a good earnings. And so to me, the earnings is what, in a month, 2 months? For me, buying the dip is for a nice earnings pop, and then I'll probably sell a decent amount of these options on earnings if we get a really good pop to like $9 to $10. But I mean, we'll see, if we can get there. For now, I think SoFi is going to be tough to move outside of a big catalyst like an earnings. There's just not that much going for it yet, but earnings I think will be good. Apple turns red now, 173. Let's look at the Mag 7. All red on the day. Meta's red, Google's red, Amazon's red, Nvidia's red, Tesla's red, Microsoft's red, Apple's red, and Google just turned red as it was green a little bit ago. Meta got a little dip. That is correct. Oh, Nubank. Yeah, let's look at Nubank. I haven't covered this one in a long time. Nubank, $11. It's up from $7 in December, so it is up 40%, which is good. To me, Nubank is super interesting in the Latin American space. I don't study the company that much or care that much about Latin America enough to really get excited for it. And I mean, if I did, really study that era or that part of the world, it would be more exciting. Even though Latin America is something I think everyone should be a little bit more excited about, including myself, because obviously we're seeing a lot of the manufacturing move out into different parts of the world and leave China. One thing about this is there's a $55 billion market cap, which at $11 feels kind of weird. The thing is they're growing at like 80% year over year. So they're growing incredibly well, which is, I guess, what's justifying the market cap. But that's what turns people off, is that the market cap is so high, even though the stock price is lower. Obviously, that's not one-to-one correlated, but the growth is there, and that's why it's going up. Speaking of Latin America, Mercado Libre, we haven't looked at this one in a while. This is basically at the same price it was at during earnings. It went to 1,500 from like 1,600, and it's still stuck at 1,500. So still at that level. DPRD says, should Palantir build a business around GPUs? Not really. Palantir's business is around software and data. GPUs is a much more complicated business, and the amount of infrastructure it takes to be able to reasonably set up a business to sell GPUs, to manufacture GPUs. That's why NVIDIA has a monopoly on this, right? So Palantir is going to benefit off GPUs training models, and then they're going to connect those models to data that clients have. That's kind of their moat, and they're doing it the best that I think anyone is doing it in the market, but they're not going to be selling GPUs or making GPUs. But overall, GPU demand is good for Palantir because that means companies are training models, and those models then need to be connected to make sense of their data. That's where something like an AIP, a Foundry, all of that starts to find its momentum. BBAI, let's look at that one. Do we know what Warren Buffett's secret stock is? No, we don't. We don't know what his secret stock is. Should be disclosed a little bit later. Robinhood down about 5.4% now, $17.23. So BBAI, it fell from a really bad earnings after it got meme stocked up to like $4. So there's nothing to look at BBAI, in my opinion. It's not a meme stock, but it got treated as a meme stock because of the AI portion of its name. Palantir did partner with these guys about 2 years ago. There's nothing special there, in my opinion, from the actual tech, but it ran up to $4. It was up like 300% because the Reddit people got all over it, and now it's back down. So I wouldn't chase this one. I wouldn't look at this one. It's just something that got meme stock oriented all over it. Lunar down about 2.35%. This is another meme stock, 520. So this one went down. And then SoundHound didn't present yesterday, probably presenting later at the conference for NVIDIA GTC. They're down 6%. SoundHound as well. Dude, $2.39 billion market cap off 80 million in revenue is stupid. Like this valuation is ridiculous. Like anyone buying this is hoping that Reddit takes it to the moon again. But SoundHound to me it doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, if you got it at $2, congratulations. At $3, great. But chasing it here, I personally don't think there's a bull case to chase it here. How much would a share price be for Palantir if they were $1 trillion company? Palantir would be worth about $500 a share if they were $1 trillion company, but like 490-ish, 495. I mean, eventually with dilution, it'll probably be closer to like, around that 490, 480 range. We'll get $1 trillion. I am not in the ball camp of people that believe. I know there's a lot of people on YouTube that like to argue that Palantir is $1 trillion company. I think most of them are, trying to get some engagement. I think reasonably Palantir gets to an Oracle market cap, which is 300 billion, Salesforce market cap, which is, closer to 250, 300 billion. Oracle right now, $350 billion. Now, I do think in the next 10 years, market caps will change, and a $3 trillion company might not be as crazy as it seems today, right? There's only a couple of them right now. So I do think $1 trillion is possible. I just think they're going to have to find an avenue to grow outside of B2B, because B2B is not really the place where you get to trillions of dollars of valuation. It's more on the consumer side, which I think they could introduce a consumer product. I just think they're really head down focused on B2B before they get into the consumer area. But look, if they get to 300, 400 billion, I think a lot of us will be excited. Regardless. Where's Palantir right now? Palantir 23.23. All right. Remember when 23.23 was so exciting, dude? Remember that day we were live for 9 hours and we saw Palantir at 23 and we were like, oh man, can we get to 23.50? Like now it's like, well, 23, we're used to 23. It's not that exciting anymore. It's just crazy how things change. Palantir looking like it could fall below 23. I will be a buyer of that dip if we get there. Robinhood as well. 1708. Robinhood's down 6%. This bad boy might hit below 17 today. And that might mess up a lot of people's portfolios. I think that would be a dip I like at below 17 as well. The question is, how long does that dip last? Like how long does that dip really last? Obviously, if Bitcoin rebounds, I think that dip gets eaten up, but it just goes to show you that once the market gets in a rhythm, you can see on the left-hand side of my screen, everything is red except Boeing, and the Bitcoin stocks in particular, which Robinhood is one of those, now 4 cents away from 17. It looks like it's definitely going to fall below 17. They get really, really red, and obviously they start to fall as well. Mag 7 is all red. Some of the value stocks are up, like Altria Group is up. But outside of that, pretty much everything is red. Spirit is red, Altria Group is red, and Boeing is red. Everything else it looks like is green. Those are green. Everything else looks like is red. TFC is up a little bit. KRE is up a little bit. Rocket Lab was below $4 today. Well, Rocket Lab also starting to be red as well. But I do think today is a good day to like look at different dips you're looking, to get excited about. We have the Fed speaking tomorrow, so they can make this dip last even longer. But dude, down 7-8% on most of these stocks. These are the days where people should get excited. These are the days where the market becomes stupid, it becomes irrational. It was long Robinhood for like a month, and now it's like, well, Bitcoin's down, so we're gonna sell it off, right? Like it's like dumb stuff. Palantir was at 27.50. Well, Palantir, market's red, so we're just gonna sell off Palantir. Like these are the days where opportunities become super exciting. And the question just is, how long do these days last, and how long will the dip actually continue to maintain itself? MicroStrategy now down below 1300 at 1282 right now. Yeah, the entire market's red. Well, we haven't had a good dip in a while. Walgreens is also a little green. We haven't had a good dip in a while. Palo Alto Networks. Yep, there you go. Down 2.6. Wow, Palo Alto's back down to the price it was at when Nancy started buying more. So there you go, Palo Alto. She bought more of this thing when it fell to 275. Right now it's at 277. Where's CrowdStrike? I imagine CrowdStrike's also red. Yep, that's down 3% as well. For those thinking this is the beginning of the end and this is going to be some massive bear cycle, look, it could happen. I don't think that's the case. I think this is a very healthy dip that, markets probably needed, quite frankly. So I think that's fine. The question is how long it will continue to last. A couple of other updates. Mortgage payments have hit an all-time high for the first time home buyers since 1989. So mortgage payments are getting a bit higher, again, proving that inflation is a bit stickier than expected. Another reason Bitcoin might have collapsed yesterday, I saw this yesterday, which is really interesting. Apparently on BitNext, which is one of the Bitcoin exchanges, someone got an old limit order filled at $10,000 a coin, and it got sold. I don't even know how that's possible, but markets are kind of crazy. Market makers are kind of wacky. And that is also what triggered Bitcoin to fall aggressively yesterday, because when Bitcoin gets sold for $10,000, the market starts to react in a different way. So that also is probably what got the market a little freaked out around Bitcoin yesterday. Palantir below 22. Palantir's at 23.04, likely going below 22. Yeah, look, if Palantir goes below 23, below 23 into 22, I'll buy the dip today. I will buy if we get below 22. We'll see. Let's see. Where are we at right now? Yeah, we go below 22. I'll have a limit order SETI for 10 shares. I'm going to set it right now. All right, I'm ready. I've got my 10 shares ready to go. Let's see if we can see if we go to 22.99 though. I want to see us get a little lower than that, just because it would be nice to get a little bit lower with 22. But let's see if that happens. This is why you never do market orders. Yeah, I mean, it does. I don't know if that was true or not, but if someone got their Bitcoin liquidated, Palantir now below 23 at 10,000 a coin, that's rough, dude. That's pretty damn rough, given Bitcoin's now at 60,000. SoFi 685 down 3%. Clean Spark 1592 down 8%. SMCI down 13%. Wow, that bounce to 920 came right back down to 870. Holy crap. Goodness gracious, dude. Goodness gracious. Tesla now down 3%. NVIDIA, wow, down 4%. NVIDIA's at 850. Tomorrow we will see if the market goes worse because of the Fed, or if the Fed kind of assures the market that they'll be okay. Again, this dip is not really a scary dip because, dude, we've had like 15 weeks of straight ripping to the upside. I mean, I would imagine we start to get a couple of red days here and there. Now, if it's a start of a correction, that would be very interesting. 10% down, I don't think is that crazy, especially in the middle of the year, because by the summer we can make our way back up. But I don't know if it's the start of a correction, dude. I think there's too many people on the sidelines that are willing to buy equities before it continues to go down. Robinhood 1709. Yeah, Robinhood's having a tough day as well. Okay, speaking of Robinhood, let me share some due diligence I got last night on Robinhood. I tweeted about this last night. On top of that, I did start a new Twitter account. I'm going to put it in the chat. It's in the description as well. It's called Wall Street Clues. So if anyone wants to follow that, you can check it out. Twitter account is really cool. Basically, the concept is I'm going to take earnings quotes from transcripts that I read every day and put them in a centralized account. So these are what the graphics look like. We got Microsoft, we got Palantir, we got NVIDIA. Basically, I started it because I started listening to so many earnings calls. I've listened to almost 100 of them this cycle. And I realized, well, it's making me smarter about the markets. It's making me understand what to look in the context of, you know, what a earnings call should entail for the companies that I'm invested in, what I should care about from a C-suite. And then I just compiled all those takeaways into one account. So excited about this account. I think it'll be fun. I like these graphics here. There's like unlimited amounts of content we can create. And I think it'll be a fun finance media account on X that basically compiles all the different Twitter accounts or all the different earnings highlights that I get from the calls that I listen to. I've been reading a lot more earnings calls as I've been making content for this account. So I think also I've just been getting more smarter as I looked at these different calls. So here's a take I did on Robinhood. So here's the quote from Jason Warnick, CFO of Robinhood. And again, the other reason I think this account is cool is because if you miss tidbits of the call, I think this account basically gets to show you different stuff that people forget from earnings calls after you hear them for the first time. So he said a month ago, Gold subscribers are up 25% year over year to 1.42 million. That's people that pay $5 a month. Gold ARPU is multiples of our average customer, which includes Q4 annualized recurring subscription revenue of 85 million. This is a Gold adoption rate of 6.1%. We also have strong momentum to start the year as we added another 60,000 Gold subscribers in January alone, which is 3 times the monthly average we saw in 2023. Mo Love says more smarter. Dude, I'm so bad at the ER. More smart. I think this account, it can help you become more smart as you get all these tidbits of earnings calls. So I saw that quote and I put that quote into a graphic and then I did some math. So let's do a little bit of math on this Robinhood thing because I thought this was really interesting. Okay. Gold subs were 60 grand, which was 3x the 20,000 monthly new Gold subs we saw in 2023. This is about 85 million in top line revenue for Gold subscriptions. So if we take the base 1.42 million and assume zero churn, because once you're in, you're paying $5 a month and it's very cheap. You get a 5% APY. I would be surprised if there's even 1% churn on Gold subscriptions. And then you multiply it for 3 months, you get 21 million in revenue. So we already know Robinhood has 21 million in revenue for their Gold subscriptions in Q1. Now let's take that stat of 60,000 and we'll conservatively cut it in half for February and March. I don't think we're going to be only 30,000 new subs, but let's be super conservative here. That means you get 30,000 in February, 30,000 in March, plus 60,000 in January. You get 1.35 million of revenue just in January, February, and March off the new Gold subscriptions. That means you get Gold subs of 23 million of revenue. We also know Robinhood brought in another 25 million from securities lending revenue. This is what they disclosed in the monthly metrics, plus another 11 million for March, which is just the average of Jan Feb, if we be conservative as well to estimate what March security lending revenue is, which gives us 36 million of revenue. So if we add Gold subscriptions plus security lending's revenue, so far, we have 60 million in revenue for the quarter. Robinhood was already GAAP profitable by 30 million. So we've doubled the GAAP profitability just by gold subscriptions and security lending's revenue. The reason this is so important is because this has nothing to do with trading revenue. So even if Bitcoin takes a dump, maybe there is still more momentum for Robinhood that has nothing to do with the actual market. So what does this mean? I think number one, this means they're going to be GAAP profitable. Number two, if my assumptions for gold signups are conservative, which I think they are, I think these numbers are going to be even better. And number three, the credit card they're launching on March 26th to gold subs is going to introduce an even better offering, which means gold subs, I think, can go through the roof, surpassing $100 million ARR on that business alone. So in the context of what Jason Warnick said, which is that we're getting more and more gold subs, 3x the amount of the monthly average, I think that signals that we should have a lot more gold subscriber buttons as well, or gold subscribers in the month of February and March, which should be good for top line revenue growth as well. So that's a little bit of due diligence on Robinhood. I do think that gold subs are going to be good, and we'll just see how those numbers turn out in the coming quarters. SoFi 685, MicroStrategy down 14%, Snowflake down 2%, SMCI now down 11%, 885, NVIDIA down about 3%, 858, Tesla 168 down about 4% on the day. CleanSpark's dropping like a rock. Yep, there you go, down about 10%, 9.7% on CleanSpark as well. So there you go. CleanSpark is down. Boeing 179, Adobe 515, S&P 511, NVIDIA 858. Win Cheryl, thank you for the $10 super chat on the Bitcoin dip. Which do you think is better, Coin, Robinhood, or one of the spot Bitcoin ETFs? It's a good question. I think the safest option is obviously the Bitcoin ETF. That one's going to have a little bit less volatility. I mean, I'm biased. I think Robinhood as a business is so much diverse. It's so diversified that on the Bitcoin dip, it will benefit the most from Bitcoin. Coinbase is a great option as well, but Coinbase is already up 7x. So I don't know how much juice is left to squeeze. If Bitcoin goes to 100K, Coinbase will probably be $350. But I think if Bitcoin goes to 100K, Robinhood could be like $50, right? So Robinhood is my best option, but it is volatile. The Bitcoin ETF is probably safer over the long term. But if you're looking for more alpha, I would probably say Robinhood. In my opinion, it's one of the ones that would be the cheapest. Okay, so Tesla's down. Meet Kevin is shorting this thing. Tesla's now at 168. He started shorting it at 172. So let's see if he closes the short or he keeps the short going. He's probably already up on the short now. So let's see if he closes it or he keeps it going. But Tesla is down today, and it seems like the Fed meeting is what's getting the market a little bit scared as well going into tomorrow. But Microsoft is up 0.5%. Yeah, Microsoft's green. What was your guys' reaction now that you had a day to sleep on it on the Google Apple news? Any new thoughts at all? My reaction was that I think it's a smart move for Google. It makes me a little scared for Apple that they have to partner with Google. And it actually makes me more bullish on Microsoft, quite frankly, because I think Microsoft is so strong that Google and Apple, like, I don't think if you're a Microsoft shareholder, you're afraid that Apple's partnering with Gemini, if they actually are partnering with Gemini. But I'm curious to see what people thought now that we've had a day to kind of digest that news. I'm Beneficial says, I think it bodes well for them, more for Google, though. Yeah, I agree. Definitely better for Google. He's closed today at 8:35. Oh, wow. He closed the shorts. Wow. That was quick. He never holds on to his shorts ever. So he closed them. So disappointed Apple that they aren't leveraging more with the phone. Well, I think that's going to be the interesting thing. I think it's going to be interesting to see if they have an iOS device that is more on-prem at the edge of AI. But it seems like they don't have anything super, super exciting, which is why, you get Google, which is why you get Gemini to do something for that phone to get people more excited and to have real generative AI capabilities. But right now, it doesn't seem like Siri would be able to do it right now. Maybe that's why Microsoft is up today. Yeah. I mean, look, dude, if I'm Microsoft, I'm not scared of Google and Apple partnering at all. Like, I'm actually kind of like, all right, bring it on. Like, what are you guys going to do? And I know Microsoft, all they did was invest in OpenAI, but dude, it took a lot of courage to put $13 billion into OpenAI before anyone else did. At that time, OpenAI was not putting up $2 billion in revenue, which is what they're doing right now. And Google kind of slept at the wheel. I mean, Google should have been buying OpenAI or partnering with OpenAI, but then again, OpenAI was a hedge against Google. They didn't really want Google to partner with them. So, or even Apple. Apple could have given OpenAI money. I'm sure Sam Altman would have been excited to take money from Tim Cook, if not from Satya. Now, granted, Satya did have the AI credits, which was the most exciting thing about Azure. That was the most, reasonable thing that you needed when it came to compute. but Microsoft was the perfect partner, and they did what they had to do. And so I think they kind of think they have a pretty firm spot in this AI space. CleanSpark now down 9%, Robinhood down about 5%, Palantir above $23, 23.05 right now. SoundHound 783, Verizon 39.90, and NVIDIA down 2.82% as well. Does Tesla get to 150? Dude, I don't know. That bounce we saw from Tesla the other day, I don't know if we get to 150. 168 to 161, back to 174. It seemed Adam Jonas put out a note yesterday saying that Tesla should be 320 right now. So his argument is that Tesla is in an incredibly prime situation, and that it absolutely should not be at these levels. I'm trying to get his note right here. One thing that obviously was really important, Gary Black said this yesterday, is that Tesla increased their prices by $1,000 for the Model Y. So when you see Tesla price increases up to a Model Y, up for $1,000 for the Model Y, it's hard to get scared that Tesla is necessarily losing demand. Adam Jonas right here said that his $320 price target is comprised of automotive hardware, software, and energy-related businesses. He does not include the potential from robotics. He says, while Tesla's competencies in computer vision, machine learning, AI, and robotics have included a multitude of adjacent commercial applications, we have not included such revenue streams such as Optimus in our model or valuation at this time. Now, NVIDIA showed off a ton of different stuff when it comes to robotics yesterday at their event in the AI Day. And that robotics event was really, really exciting and interesting as well. And it's making investors think that maybe there's more here. Here's a little bit from that NVIDIA event when it comes to robotics. It's called Project Groot. This is their new research lab when it comes to robotics.
About the same size. The soul of NVIDIA, the intersection of computer graphics, physics, artificial intelligence. It all came to bear at this moment. The name of that project, General Robotics 003. I know, super good. Super good. Well, I think we have some special guests. Do we? Hey guys. So I understand you guys are powered by Jetson. They're powered by Jetsons. Little Jetson robotics computers inside. They learn to walk in Isaac Sim. Ladies and gentlemen, this is orange, and this is the famous green. They are the BDX robots of Disney. Amazing Disney research. Come on, you guys, let's wrap up. Let's go. 5 things. Where are you going? I sit right here. Don't be afraid. Come here, Green. Hurry up. What are you saying? No, it's not time to eat.
It's pretty cool, right? It's pretty cool. So Adam Jonas is not factoring in robotics in the context of his valuation for Tesla, but we're seeing NVIDIA start an entire research lab, Project Groot, which is going to be more exciting for what robotics look like over the next decade. I mean, I don't know how you don't factor in robotics into the Tesla valuation. I get that Wall Street doesn't think it's a big deal yet, but I do think it's eventually going to be something incredibly important for the overall valuation if they can execute on Optimus. And for NVIDIA as well. I mean, NVIDIA is not slowing down when it comes to robotics. They're going to get paid a lot of money for all these companies that are buying GPUs to train their robots, just like ChatGPT trained their large language models. So Jensen was, I mean, he laid out his vision yesterday in a pretty succinct manner. And I think the street understands what's going on for NVIDIA. But on a red day like today, you're going to get a sell-off. And that's what we're seeing right now. Jet says these are basic robots which have been around for a decade. I agree. The robots that were on stage, like the little like little, I don't know what you call it, pet that was walking around. That's a bit more basic. I'm talking about the humanoid robotics. I mean, those to me are the ones that are going to be really exciting. The other ones I get, they were kind of like toys on the stage. But Isaac, which is the research lab they started for robotics, that to me seems like something they're going to invest heavily in, because if they can do what they've done, if basically a Google DeepMind is created for humanoid robotics, there's just going to be a massive amount of investment going into that space. And then the question just becomes, are there commercial and enterprise and industrial applications for those robots? Right now, that's not there. We are far from that, right? Like right now, a robot is not making a car. Even though Apptronic, a company that's in the robotic space, just signed a deal with Mercedes to deploy their robots in the Mercedes factories. But right now, it's not super at scale yet. Eventually, it will be. And if it is, NVIDIA is going to benefit off that. Or at least I think NVIDIA is going to benefit a massive amounts from that. I want to get a bot to keep my cat company while I'm gone. Oh my God, dude. It's hilarious. They were not real, just projections. Yeah, the ones on stage were just projections. The actual things that were moving back and forth, the green and orange, the pets, those were real, but the other ones were just projections. They were basically mock-ups of what the actual robotics looks like. Is Apple moving up? Where's Apple? Apple 174. Apple's green. Interesting. So on a pretty bloody red day, on a bloodbath of a day, in the words of Trump. Dude, that term caused so much controversy. It's insane. Apple right now is up, Microsoft's up, and Amazon's up. Google's down, Meta's down, NVIDIA's down, and Tesla's down. Robinhood is 1703, 3 cents away from being below 17. And then Palantir, I'll probably buy more Palantir today, 23.20, down 3% on the day. All right, that is it, folks, for today. Let's do word of the day, and then we're out. It's a red day. I'll be back on the market close to see how this all turns out. But Bitcoin and everything else continuing to be red. Oh, this is a great word. Whippersnapper.
Whippersnapper.
You saw the emphasis on the W, the whippersnapper.
Whippersnapper.
An unimportant but offensively presumptuous person, especially a young one. The old man scolded the whippersnapper for cutting in line at the grocery store. She chuckled at the antics of the young whippersnapper trying to act all grown up. I'm sure some of you in the chat are like, Amit, you're definitely a whippersnapper on some of these days. Whippersnapper. This is a fun one. I like this one. Get off my lawn, you crypto whippersnappers. I know a lot of people last night when I was tweeting about Bitcoin, I was just like, why can't this thing just go up? They were probably like, this guy's such a whippersnapper when it comes to Bitcoin. Obviously, I'm playing around, dude. I know Bitcoin's volatile. I know it goes down. I get it. It's supposed to go up and down. Like, that's the point, right? To the upside and the downside. But it is kind of funny seeing this thing go down $10,000 in like 10 minutes. I mean, you got to admit, it is kind of funny. 65,000 when I sleep, below 63,000 when I wake up. I mean, it's hilarious. So I'm a whippersnapper when it comes to Bitcoin, but it's fun to see it play out. My dad always used to call people whippersnappers. I'm definitely going to call people whippersnappers when I get older, dude. I'm going to have to. Eric says Amit defines whippersnapper. I love it. All right. That's it for me. Thank you, everybody, for joining. We'll be back for the market close. Jonathan says, IDK, man, I think we're red for the day. No way it's going green. We'll see. The market has a way of surprising you. I mean, we've been red like 3 or 4 times aggressively like today throughout the past 3 months, and we ended green on those days. So maybe we'll continue to be red, but we'll see how the market turns out and if the market gets excited to buy some of the dip. All right, that's it for me. I'll see you guys on market close. Daily Palantir episode coming out in a few hours, and we'll keep going from there and see how crypto ends up turning out. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Market open Tuesday, March 19th, 10:05 a.m. I'll see you guys later today. Bye, everyone. Have a good one.